Guys, welcome back for episode 3 of our motorsport tuning guide. Today we are going to talk about alignment for both racing and drifting. This should be a fairly short video. I'm trying to keep these videos fairly to the point and short, but anyways, before we jump in, be sure to subscribe with post notifications so that you don't miss future episodes of our tuning guide series, and let's jump into it. So we're here at Akon, the club circuit today to tune our alignment. So to tune the alignment you're going to need either a race or drift suspension. For the first setup we are going to use race suspension. So here is our stock alignment setup. So let's start with figuring what each one does. The camber refers to the top of the tire. The more negative camber, the closer the top of the tires are. Toe refers to the front of the tire. The more toe out the front of the tires are pointed more outwards. And the front caster refers to the angle of steering axis from front to back. For a race car most of the time you don't want much toe. The caster we mostly use if the car feels super heavy or it turns in too much, we can lower it a little to make it feel better. Typically I just leave my front caster set on 7.0. But the big thing for race tunes is the camber, because we want our tires to heat up correctly, and you also gain a little bit of bite when cornering with more camber, or you can also use it to make the back end a little more slidey if the back end is just a little too grippy and doesn't want to rotate around. Typically I would recommend to not go past negative 2.5 front camber and negative 1.5 rear camber. But there is specific track setups that people will use max camber just to get it to turn the way they want. So we're going to quickly showcase the difference between 0 and max camber. And as a side note, don't use positive camber. Positive camber has pretty specific uses, but 99% of the time you won't benefit enough for racing to use positive camber. Okay, now that you see what camber does at the min and max, let's talk about how to tune it. So most of your turning isn't going to come down to camber, it's something that helps you turn. But mostly we want it so our tires heat better through the corner. I'm not going to cover the actual tire temp way, but I will cover the way to figure out what camber setup you should be using. The best way to figure out what you want for your alignment setup for racing is to start with -2.0 front camber, and -1.0 rear camber, at mid to low speed corners. If you find it slides out, it might help to increase front camber. If you find the back end doesn't rotate enough, it might help to increase rear camber. But I mostly stick between 0.0 and -2.5. If the car isn't turning at 2.5 degrees of camber, it's not a camber issue, and any more camber in my opinion you're just wasting all around performance for a slightly faster track time. Now we're going to get drift suspension on and I'll teach you how to tune your alignment for drifting. Alright, we're at Suzuka East Circuit for this. I threw a base tune on for everything but the alignment. This is still the stock alignment setup, so let's take it for a drive, see how it drives stock. Then we'll come back and I'll show you a couple ways of tuning the alignment, and I'll list some pros and cons about them. So the first method is going to be the practical way. This is more of a realistic tuning style, giving the car only what it needs and not pushing it super far. Keep in mind this car still is stock engine, stock weight, stock tires. The only thing we have is the tunable upgrades, so we're going to start with the front caster. All the drift builds I've done, unless it's been a super small wheelbase, I've used 7.0 front caster. If it is super twitchy, turning down the front caster can help. For this method I would recommend starting with -2.5 front camber, -1.0 rear camber, 0.0 front toe, 0.0 rear toe. What's funny is that feels perfect for this car. Unfortunate. Anyways, so if the front of the car mid-drift feels like it's gripping too much, turning down the front camber will help. If the front of the car mid-drift feels like it's not gripping enough, turning it up will help. For this style of drifting, running too much front or rear camber will cause imbalance and make it feel off. In drifting we do use toe, but for this style not so much. But if the front of the car feels too floaty, adding some toe out to the front will make it more responsive. If the rear of the car feels too grippy, adding some toe in will help. This style of drifting is pretty specific for what it likes, and most of the time it's just a matter of messing around, seeing what works and what doesn't. Eventually you'll get to the point where you can just eyeball this and it'll drift fine. but you'll also get to the point where you can use just about any settings and drift just fine. For this style of drifting, you don't really need much camber and toe, and you shouldn't expect it to be amazing everywhere. The next style of alignment tuning for drifting I wanna cover I call Formula Drift style. It's most people's style nowadays since it's been used by so many drifters. I don't really care for it. I don't feel like it actually helps that much, but in theory it gives you the most angle and speed for drifting. This is much more drift focused, so the starting point is -5 front camber, -0.5 rear camber, 0.5 front toe out, and -0.1 rear toe in, then we'll adjust from there. This style of drifting naturally gets a lot more angle than the first style we covered, but it also comes at a cost of looking bad, and if you're not throwing big angles it's a bit more twitchy, but it does kinda keep speed and angle. I don't see the need for that much front camber if you're not throwing huge angle every turn, but it does work fine. This car also needs more rear camber for this style. Lastly I wanna cover my style of drift tuning. I do use a lot of camber sometimes, but my tune differs because I prefer a lot more front toe. For my style of drift tuning the alignment, we are going to go with -2.5 front camber, -1.0 rear camber, 1.0 front toe out, and 0.5 rear toe in. My style is kinda in between. See, the reason I use less camber and more toe is because you don't need massive amounts of camber if you just run a little bit more toe. Yes, running toe is a cost of stability, but with my method, I can drift any track that I have enough power for, at any angle, and do fine almost everywhere. The reason I'm explaining these different styles is so that you know the base for each style. Once you understand the base of each style, now it's up to you to go have fun sliding around with your friends, and just keep testing stuff. Try different settings and have fun with it. I'll quickly show a very old school tune style people used to use for competitive tandem and points drifting. We're going to be using positive camber for this, and if you're wondering, no, I have not tried it in this game yet, so will it work? Let's find out. Yes, it does still work. This car doesn't have the power for it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. I'll see you guys next Friday. Be sure to like and subscribe with post notifications so that you don't miss any future episodes of our Motorsport tuning guide. And check the description for our Linktree, home of all our social media links, where you can join us on Twitter, X, Discord, Twitch, and be sure to leave your tuning advice, tips, tricks, and questions in the comments below. Thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful day.